removing the Prime Minister's most senior advisor from his post without further delay.
Well, I'll tell you what, that little short clip there sums up the media over the last couple of days in relation to this Dominic Cummings saga that, as I've said many times, is a storm in a teacup that the media have decided to use as a witch hunt to get rid of him. Most likely because the Brexit extension deadline is coming up in a couple of weeks and the media, along with politicians, are desperate to get it stopped, including up to 35 Tory MPs who have done the exact same thing that the Ramoning traitors did during the 2017 to 2019 Parliament, as we all remember. These 35 odd MPs are essentially the 21 Tory traitors from last year. But once again this morning, the BBC, the media in general, and of course politicians like Lisa Nandy here, have once again shown why the hashtag #ScumMedia has been trending on Twitter for 3 days now. Because it's such an obvious witch hunt with complete hypocrisy and attempts to hide things that Labour MPs have done, as I've pointed out in previous videos, and you will see in this one. Because Labour and the media have been running around complaining that it's one rule for Dominic Cummings and a different rule for everyone else. But Lisa Nandy herself will say in this video, as you see, that the Labour MPs doing it is different to Dominic Cummings because of course he's part of the government, which is absolute nonsense. And over the last couple of days on Twitter, where I've been arguing with blue check marks and everyone else, I have pointed out the facts of this situation to them many times, and they've always resorted back to, no, it's okay if Labour MPs do it because they are not the government, which is the exact hypocrisy we see here from the media and Lisa Nandy. So enough chit chat, let's take a listen to it and I'll go over any bits I feel I need to.
On that issue, first of all, can I ask you why the Labour Party aren't involved in that sort of joint party statement about Dominic Cummings?
Well, he's said that he's not going to resign. The Prime Minister said that he's got full confidence in him and he believes that he didn't break the rules. And in all honesty, we're not very interested in the Labour Party and Dominic Cummings.
Well, she's absolutely full of shit there, claiming the Labour Party are not interested in Dominic Cummings. We all know they are. But I expect the reason why Labour have not signed this letter is because they said they would work with the government during this situation. That would show them as playing party politics, as where if their MPs come on here and spout a load of nonsense, which is party political, it's much easier to get away with because the media won't hold them to task for it, as you will see in this interview. I think Labour are worried that it's going to backfire if they do, though we already know they are fully involved in the witch hunt if they didn't instigate it in the beginning.
It would appear from your answer there that you are interested in the future of Dominic Cummings, and your leader has said that he would have sacked him had he been in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right, because in a public health crisis, confidence is absolutely essential. And up and down the country, I've been, like every MP, inundated with people who have made huge personal sacrifices, who just cannot understand what was unique about Dominic Cummings' case. And the press conference that he held over the weekend actually seemed to make that situation worse. The Prime Minister has got to take responsibility for this now. He's got to decide whether he can actually account for why that situation was so unique that the rules had to be broken. And if he can't, then I think it's right that he should take action to restore public confidence. But at the moment, we've got a situation where both the Prime Minister and his own advisor are just refusing to resign or to sack him, and also refusing to answer basic questions. That's just not sustainable. Something has got to change, and it's got to change very, very quickly if the public are going to have confidence. But if there's one rule for the Prime Minister's advisors and another rule for the public, then people will not trust it, and that will cost lives. So this is really, really dangerous for Boris Johnson not to be answering questions about this and sorting this out. And we've got to see action taken very, very quickly.
Well, I absolutely love her claim that the press conference Dominic Cummings gave the other day in the Rose Garden made things worse. It really didn't. It sent the media into complete shitfits and showed them for what they are. If you listen to any of the questions from that press conference, you will hear the complete nonsensical nature of every single one, which, if you watch the daily briefing, also happened there from ITV News host Peston the Ponce, who got absolutely destroyed by Matt Hancock in about 5 seconds flat. here, take a quick look.
Robert Peston from ITV.
Secretary of State, you and your wife tested positive for COVID-19. You have 3 young children, but you chose to stay at home in London. What is the relevant difference between you and Dominic Cummings?
The relevant difference, Robert, is that we had childcare readily available at home and Mr. Cummings didn't. Thanks very much. Ben Kentish from...
That beatdown there is what that press conference brought about, and is likely exactly why it was done, because it exposed the media for the witch hunters that they are. Never mind the Salem witch trials, guys, we have the Durham witch trials of 2020, because every single one of these media shitweasels and opposition MPs are suffering from an acute case of Cummings derangement syndrome, which, as I said earlier, has been rampant on Twitter. But Lisa Nandy, Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings have spoken. He is going nowhere. That is the end of it. At the end of that clip, we finally get to the part where she says one rule for the Prime Minister and his advisors and a different one from the public, which, as she was talking, I quickly slipped in a few articles about the Labour MPs who had broken these lockdown rules, including the one absolute scumbag who attended up to 5 funerals in one day, with 100 mourners attending at least one of them. That, I'm sure you will agree, is far more of a kick in the teeth to the people of this country who have lost loved ones and not been able to attend the funeral. Yet Labour and the media are sitting here talking about a drive up to Durham that came in contact with absolutely no one, showing this, like I said, is a complete media witch hunt. And I think we also need to point out the fact that SNP shitweasel Ian Blackford actually travelled all the way from London to Scotland during the coronavirus lockdown, while over the last few days he has been screaming, demanding the resignation of Dominic Cummings. Hypocritical or what? But it really doesn't surprise us. We know what these people are like.
On the other end of things, you talk about some of the opinions you've been receiving from your constituents. There are people who are contacting us, I'm sure they're contacting you as well, and they say this is simply a witch hunt which is largely being pushed by those in the media. What do you say to that point of view?
Well, I think there's a very serious underlying point about this, which is that Dominic Cummings was one of the advisors who actually wrote those rules, who helped the government put those rules into law. And what that guidance and those rules do is they ask families to take some very difficult personal decisions, for the greater good. So, a couple, for example, in my constituency, both of whom are frontline workers, both of whom contracted COVID and have young children, made a very difficult decision just to try and manage and not to call in grandparents for help. That was a very, very hard thing for them to do. They worried about the welfare of their children. And right across the country, you've seen families having to make those very, very difficult decisions. And yet the Prime Minister's own advisor seems to be allowed to take the opposite approach. That really is unsustainable. And I'm not that interested in Dominic Cummings. Who the Prime Minister appoints as his advisor is a matter for him. But that's why Labour is saying that if the Prime Minister isn't going to sack Dominic Cummings, then he has to come in front of the liaison committee and he has to clear this up once and for all.
Well, at least the BBC host pointed out that this is an obvious witch hunt and people have been saying it to them. I can only imagine the amount of complaints that they have got in relation to this, and I expect Sky News have got even more, because that broadcaster and its journalists have been on the attack ever since this situation occurred, and especially since Dominic Cummings' press conference, with Adam Bolton attacking anyone who calls the media scum media. They really have been shown for what they are, and in this interview, so has Lisa Nandy, because rather than admitting that it is a blatant and obvious witch hunt, she has once again tried to say that there are different rules for Dominic Cummings and different rules for everyone else, if you're a Labour MP, that is. Dominic Cummings, remember, has different rules to us, while Labour MPs have different rules to us and Dominic Cummings. So guys, you'll have to let me know down in the comments who is taking the piss more on this one. Is it Dominic Cummings or is it Labour and their MPs who this dopey bint is trying to cover for? But nothing annoys me more than her sitting there going on about how families have had to take personal decisions to miss out on things that they would have wanted to attend, such as funerals and the like, while completely ignoring the fact that that, as I've said multiple times, and I will keep saying, the Labour MP attended a funeral with 100 people, when I've already heard from viewers of mine that were denied the right to attend a family funeral because of the coronavirus restrictions, while Labour MPs flaunt it and get away with it scot-free, it would seem. Perhaps we need to start a campaign to have these Labour MPs removed from their seat, because we have the power to do it. They are trying to do it to Dominic Cummings, so it's only fair that we do it back. What do you guys think?
And what about... I think it's an interesting point for the Labour Party, isn't it? Because you talked about Dominic Cummings, you talked about what Keir Starmer has said about saying he would have sacked him, but there's also that issue of his own Labour MPs who have stepped across the line, some people would argue, and how do you then talk about Dominic Cummings while not reprimanding them?
Well, there are a couple of cases where Labour MPs got it wrong. One of those cases, for example, Stephen Kinnock, had gone to see his parents a couple of days after the lockdown rules were put in place to drop off some shopping and say hello. He thought it was okay to sit on the drive and chat to them because he was socially distancing. He was wrong, and he's acknowledged that he was wrong. And to be fair, in that case, the police said, look, it's a couple of days after these rules have been put in place. We understand that people are getting used to them, but we don't consider this to be in keeping with the spirit of the rules, so please don't do it. And he hasn't. The difference with Dominic Cummings, I think, is that he wrote those rules. He appears to have breached them over and over again, and he says he has no regrets and he's not sorry. I just don't know what MPs, particularly those Tory MPs who had put their trust in this administration, they now feel very, very angry that they have nothing to say to their constituents who, faced with a similar situation, made great personal sacrifices. That is just not sustainable.
Now, at the start of that clip, you can really hear that he does not want to read out this next bit, which obviously shits all over Labour's claim to be the morally superior ones here, because multiple MPs from their side of the political spectrum, as I've said and shown multiple times, have broke the lockdown rules to a greater degree than Dominic Cummings ever could if he did, which obviously he didn't. Like I've said, 24th of March, you can watch the daily briefing and see the Public Health England doctor point this out for him, along with, of course, going and looking at the UK government's legislation, which has the exception written in it in plain black and white. I put it on Twitter the other day and ended a couple of blue checkmarks attempts to defend the media witch hunt. But I would say the BBC host's reaction as he started reading that out then shows his complete and utter bias against Dominic Cummings, and once again proves this is an obvious witch hunt. Now, you will notice when she points out about cases, she talks about Stephen Kinnock being outside his dad's house on his dad's birthday, which is probably the lesser of the lot. But she failed to point out, obviously, about the Labour MP who, like I've said again and again, attended a funeral with 100 people, and apparently attended up to 5 that very same day. I think you will agree it's rather convenient that she left that one out, and the BBC's shitweasel host didn't once pull her up on it, especially when she spoke about earlier people missing funerals, showing, like I've said, this was a media witch hunt propagated along with the help of these Labour politicians and, of course, every other opposition party. But what more can you expect? They have absolutely no power, so they're trying to use the media to control the government. Unfortunately for them, it doesn't appear to be working, and good. Now, she said that Kinnock acknowledged that he was wrong, and the police spoke to him and said that he was wrong. The big difference, of course, with what Dominic Cummings did is he went up there, the police spoke to his dad and said he had done nothing wrong. Instead, they spoke to him about security because the media and these politicians had created threats against his life, meaning the police needed to be aware that he was there so they could protect him if anyone tried to attack him, which we have actually seen from a Sky News photographer, and I will show you on the screen now.
After hours and hours of vile harassment on Twitter today, I've decided to deactivate my account. I don't know how long for, but if anyone hears of any opportunity where one can pay to chase Michael Gove down the street and kick him in the balls, please let me know, because I would be interested.
Yep, that idiot was actually promoting violence against a government minister. It is just incredible and once again proves that this was just a media witch hunt. But on that note guys, I am going to end the video there. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.